Welcome back to the Well Aware Podcast. Today, we're unpacking the incredible journey of Jake Hall and his transformation from the brink of addiction to becoming a beacon of hope. Jake's path led him to a profound purpose as a client recovery advisor with Aware, and in this episode, you'll discover the power of transformation, recovery, and the impact that one person's journey can have on others. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the Well Aware podcast. I'm Brian Holzer, CEO of Aware Recovery Care, and we are an in-home addiction treatment provider. Today's episode represents the second in a four-part series where we're talking to not only former clients of Aware Recovery Care, but former clients that are now current employees, and really diving into how not only the Aware program has changed their lives, but now as they are on the other side helping to change other people's lives, talking about that transition and how their lives are so uniquely different at this point. We have such a special episode for you here today. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I'd like to introduce and welcome Jake Hall to the program. He is a remarkable individual, and I've gotten rid of saying his story is unique because while it is unique, it's also unfortunately all too common. But he has faced his demons and challenges head on, and is now a rock star employee for Aware Recovery Care. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. So welcome to the program, Jake.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You know, and even better, the timing of this, this is our third episode in the Well Aware podcast, but the second of a four-part series. It turns out the timing of this, you're only a couple weeks away from your 1-year anniversary at Aware, correct?
Correct. November the 13th.
Wow. Congratulations on that. We're certainly thrilled to have you here. And why don't you start off by talking about how your first year at Aware has gone, and maybe introduce your role as a certified recovery advocate, and a little bit about your sort of day-to-day responsibilities for the company.
Awesome. Yeah. As a CRA, it's amazing being out in the field every single day doing what my CRAs did for me. It's I never thought I would be here doing this. That's for sure. And it's an amazing and a unique experience with every single client.
That's great. And we'll dive more into that as we get into our conversation. I'd love for you to walk the listeners through, to the extent you're comfortable, the early days of your life, sort of before you started drinking, what led to your drinking and the acceleration of the drinking, and what was life like for you back then in terms of your struggles in active addiction?
Yeah. So my life growing up, my parents were awesome. They were great. Always supportive. I was a big baseball player. My dad was super into me playing baseball. Basically something I did like 4 seasons. I did it all the time. So then when I started to get into like middle school, high school, baseball started to kind of fade away, and I wasn't too into it. My dad really pushed me to keep playing and everything. So I quit in high school, and our relationship kind of broke apart there. And that's when I really started to find alcohol with my friends, just hanging out, by the fire, drinking some beer and stuff. And then that slowly turned into me drinking the vodka once the nips came. And, my famous line that I always told everybody was, now's my time to have fun. When the kids come, when real life comes, that's when it's going to stop. So my first daughter came and it didn't stop. It just got worse. And, COVID came. I got laid off, so I was home just drinking 24/7. And then at that point, it got to the point where I knew I was an alcoholic, but I didn't want to tell anybody. And I just kept telling myself, the only way I was going to quit is if I ended up dead or if I ended up in the hospital. And unfortunately, I ended up in the hospital with a 30% chance to live and acute pancreatitis. And, I told my wife basically to prepare for the worst and everything. And just hearing my daughter laugh when she was a kid, and even hearing her cry, that's what pushed me through it. That's what got me through.
Jake, that's an amazing story. Let me just, again, take you back a little bit to the beginning. My understanding is you grew up in a family with alcoholism present. Can you talk a little bit about that, and and I get the sense that you actually were even more aware that you might be at risk, and that kept you from some of your early drinking until it didn't. So I would love for you to walk the listeners through that, because I think it's honestly a common story that I hear for those that are now in recovery.
Yeah, so I grew up on my father's side of the family. Basically, everybody was alcoholics. It really started to. I started to notice everything really when probably when I was around like 10 years old and stuff like that. Um, and then it really started to have issues. My uncle had heart complications because of drinking after my grandmother passed away. One of my cousins had heart complications because of it. My grandfather, he was a bad alcoholic, and my family saw that. My father saw that. Growing up, my dad always drank. Um, he was an alcoholic. I'd say he drank beer every single night. He wasn't really about the hard stuff and everything. But I grew up around alcohol, that's for sure. And growing up, my father and my mother always told me how much of the addictive gene that we had, and that kept me away for a while, um, until I couldn't cope with my feelings alone anymore.
Did your mother drink at all when you were growing up?
No, no, my mother, she'd have a glass of wine here and there, but she
Yeah.
wasn't really a drinker. My mother's whole side of the family really wasn't drinkers. They would drink here and there at a party or something. But my father's side was really, the vodka all day long,
Yeah.
beer all the time. So it was really my father's side that I guess I started to follow that path when I got older as well.
And when you started drinking, was there a sense of guilt, or a sense of this is okay because you grew up with it around you when you were in the house with your parents?
At first, at first I thought it was, kind of fine just having some, because really, it's when I started drinking, I was just having a few beers here and there around the fire with my buddies. So
Yeah.
so I thought it was fine. I thought, oh, it's just what everybody does and stuff. And when it started to get bad, when I was drinking like a 30 pack of beer in like 2 hours, that's when I
Mm.
started to realize, maybe I'm going down this path that my family's going down. And that's when I started to feel guilty and shameful and stuff like that. And then, every single time you try to quit and you can't quit, that brings on the shame and the guilt too. So
And then you mentioned your daughter. Was she born before or after the COVID pandemic?
yeah, so she was born before. Um,
Okay.
she was a year and a half when I went into the hospital, and yeah, a year and a half, and she's 5 years old now. I've been sober for 3.5 years, and I would not be here without her or my wife. That's for sure.
Again, if these are too personal, please don't answer. I guess I'm interested in, you bring a new life in this world with your daughter, and was there any relationship emotionally between you and your daughter, and it bringing back memories of the relationship with you and your father, and sort of the acknowledgement of the problem and wanting to get sober for your daughter? Was there any connection to the relationship that you had with your father in your upbringing?
Yeah, so that was a big. I would compare my father and I a lot. I would see myself a lot as my father, as well.
Yeah.
It got to the point where I think I was a lot worse than my father was. Once the vodka came, I was up to, 3 to 5 sleeves of nips a day.
Yeah.
Um, my father was just a big beer drinker, but he had a little bit of a temper and stuff when he drank. So it really played a toll on me.
So you go in the hospital, you have pancreatitis. You're told that you might not live, and that was sort of the pivot point where you became committed to sobriety, or seeking sobriety. Is that when you found Aware?
Yeah. So when I went into the hospital, when I first went in, I was like they told me I had to be on all fluids and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, cool. So I'll just go home and drink water. I'll be good. And they're like, no, like you're dying. Like you have to be here.
Yeah.
I was pretty incoherent and stuff for week 2 and week 2 weeks that I was there. So the hospital really encouraged my wife to find somewhere for me to go after I got out. And my wife, she wanted me to go to rehab a million times before this, and I always said, I don't want to be away from my family. I don't want to go away for 30 days and then come back and just be in the same situation I was in. So she really started to dive in and find a place that would work for her and I. And she found Aware. They didn't take my insurance, but it seemed like the only thing that would have worked for me. So we said screw it and went right along with it. And man, if it wasn't for Aware, I wouldn't be here.
Wow. So a lot of our clients actually start off in higher levels of care or residential treatment facilities and such. It sounds like you had never been to another level of care. Like you had decided from the get-go that you weren't going to be separated from your family, and being in a rehab center wasn't going to work for you. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's the big reason why at the end I would tell myself as well that the only way I'd be able to stop is if I went to the hospital or if I ended up dead, because I didn't want to be away from my
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Aware program. So your wife finds the program for you, and now you're welcoming in a care team into your house to not only work with you, but I would love for you to talk about the experience you had with the care team, and then ultimately, would love for you to describe the impact that the family component of the Aware program had on your wife, and the ability for that to contribute to your journey to recovery.
Yeah, so my CRAs, for them to come in and work with me, I mean, it was something that I never even knew was there, and I never even knew it was possible to have people that have been through what I went through that are going to come and work with me in my home. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it, but it was awesome. And the family ed part, Aware would not be the same without the family ed part. It did so much for my wife. It made my recovery a family recovery. It made it so she understood the addictive, the addictive brain and what went on and everything. And the family ed, I think, was one of the biggest parts for me, that it really made it feel like a whole, like she was, part of the addiction as well, because she has her stuff that she went through that I went through as well. So it was great to have her have somebody as well as me.
How strained was your relationship at that point in the hospital where you were told you might not live? I mean, it sounds like she's almost responsible for getting you into a program that ultimately worked. Talk a little bit about her journey as a significant other to someone in active crisis. I mean, what was it like at the time that she sought out Aware? And then it sounds like our program, the family component, played a huge role here as well.
Yeah. So I think definitely, the family ed part, I think, is what helped her like it as well. But throughout my addiction, I was probably not the best person to my wife. I know I wasn't. I lied, I stole. I wasn't the best person at all. And I think she sort of was happy, not happy, but you know, when I went into the hospital, she was kind of like, all right, this is the time that he's going to realize and know that he
Right.
needs to get help now too. And then, yeah, for Aware to work with her, man, she even tells me now to this day, Corey, who worked with her, she's like her lifesaver.
Wow. That's amazing. So the program worked for you the first time you ultimately were able to go through. How long were you on the Aware program?
So I was on the Aware program for 5 months. I paid for the Aware program out of pocket, and I was with them.
Wow.
And it was amazing. I went through my savings and everything like that, but I'm here. I'm alive. That's all that matters.
That is amazing. And so 5 months, you reach your treatment goals, you complete the Aware program. What was the what was the gap between you becoming sober and then joining Aware as an employee?
So I got out and I was big into like working auto body, painting cars. I was a
Uh-huh.
painter. So then I got out of the hospital and didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to go back to my old job that I was working at because it was a big trigger for me.
Yeah.
So I ended up, one of my buddies I went to school with, he started a business refinishing bathtubs. So I went and I worked there for him. And, it was still the same thing with the paint thinner and breathing in all the chemicals. So I see a therapist every Friday. And, one day I was just talking to him and like, I kind of want to get into like helping people. And he happened to know somebody that works at Aware who he gave me the contact and I called and they were all about it, man. It was amazing.
So, what was the gap in time between graduating from the Aware program, becoming an employee?
So the gap of time was about 2.5 years.
Amazing. Maybe before we get into your experience working for Aware, what was your life right after becoming sober? I mean, it had been quite some time. You spent quite some time in a life of active addiction and alcohol use. Your supportive wife gets you into the program. You exit the program in 5 months. You paid for it out of pocket, which is amazing. We do have a small population of people that do the same. Now you're in a life of sobriety. You've got a daughter, a wife that continues to be supportive. Did you go back to any of the activities that you used to do? I mean, what was life like after completing the Aware program for you personally?
So one thing that really, really sticks with me is, I've had 2 or 3 doctors tell me that if I drink again, I'll die. So that's one big thing that always sat with me. That and then also, losing my family. Losing my family is the one thing that I never want. I I want to be able to see my child every day. I want to be able to put her to bed every day. I want to bring her to school. I want to do all that. None of it would have been possible if I didn't get sober. So,
What do you like to do most with your daughter? I mean, what are some of the activities that you two do together?
so we like to go on walks and stuff, but we have a lot of animals, chickens, ducks, geese. We love playing out in the
Wow.
back, having fires, hanging out with all the animals and stuff like that.
That's great. And then personal interests. I mean, what do you do for fun? And how has sobriety sort of impacted that?
So for fun, man, it took me a while to find some fun.
Yeah.
Definitely, probably like a good 2 years to really find stuff that was enjoyable. Because everything that I did, I would be drinking. Um,
Right.
so I started fishing again, and I was a little scared to do that because that's all I did was drink when I would fish. And I started fishing again, and it was amazing. Just being out there sober, able to listen to the water, to the animals. That really helped me. Going on hikes, nature is the biggest thing that helps me. Nature and just always doing yard work, working around the house. My wife always says, "Can you sit down for 2 seconds?" I'm always going. Got to be doing something around the house.
I hear that. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that. I hear that a lot from folks that have gone through the transition of active addiction to sobriety. The need to sort of rewire your brain to seek joy from things other than from substances, and then seek joy from things that were connected to substances, like you've mentioned with fishing. Did the Aware program help you through that? And then after the program, was there any magic bullet to you being able to go fish and not drink? I mean, walk us through the disconnection of substances to seeking joy from things you used to do or new things you're doing now.
Yeah. So I mean, one big thing that got me out, doing the stuff again was my CRAs.
Yeah.
They pushed me to go out and try them. And even though it took me 2 years or so to enjoy it, them telling me that I had to go do it is what pushed me to go and start doing stuff. So that, and then, like my CRAs, they brought me to meetings, which never thought I would go to a meeting before in my life. And then I go to a meeting with one of the CRAs and I end up loving it. And then I go with him after that. So it's great.
That's great. Let's talk about now you join Aware as an employee. And now you're the certified recovery advocate doing the same things for your clients that were done for you. What was the first couple months or like? I mean, you start picking up clients. Typically our CRAs will carry a caseload between 10 and 15 clients at any given point in time. Now you're the mentor, the supporter, the enabler. What was it surreal at first? Like, did it take a little bit of while to get for you to get used to being on the other side? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So it definitely took me a little bit. Shadowing people at the beginning helped me a lot, seeing how everybody else did their things and stuff. But man, when I went to that first visit on my own with my first client, I came right home and I told my wife, I was like, I'm happy. Like I just went to
Wow.
work and it didn't feel like work. Like I'm
Wow.
helping somebody and I'm getting paid for it. This is amazing. And it felt like I was supposed to be here.
What was talk a little bit without sharing obviously the name, and what was the profile of the first client that you then came home and said this isn't work anymore?
Yeah, so he was so the client, he was a big marijuana smoker and pill user and everything. And even though, my drug of choice was alcohol, it's I don't know, just going there, getting to know his story, what led up to him doing it, finding out his goals and what he wants to reach, and me being able to help him reach those goals and everything. It was just, to me, sitting there and him telling me these goals, and then I'm sitting here like, wow, I get to help you with these. Like, it was just an amazing feeling.
Is there one or two things that you can pinpoint that make you more effective as a CRA because you were in our program and saw the effects of a CRA on you? I mean, obviously the premise of our program and why we see so much impact is we're sending folks into the home that in most cases are in active recovery, and we're like the client not too long ago, but you were actually part of the Aware program, not just someone who was previously in addiction. What is there a couple things that you sort of continue to hold your hat on, like, geez, because I was in the Aware program, I think I'm able to deliver even more value to my clients? Or is it just the nature of being in addiction previously and going through your journey to recovery that makes you so effective as a CRA?
I think the biggest thing is my own journey going through recovery and everything like that. But also at the same time, it it puts some confidence, I think, in the client having
Yeah.
somebody there that's been through the program as well, that is still in active sobriety, helping them. So I think that's a big thing. I can connect with people a little bit faster since I've been through the program and everything.
And you're how many years sober at this point?
3.5 years.
Do you think being a CRA actually contributes to your own long-term journey in recovery, or it's sort of unrelated?
Oh, 100%. It definitely does.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, man, I never thought I would be here working as a
Yeah.
working in the recovery field and stuff. Even the first year or two I was sober, I never even thought it was something I would do. And now that I'm doing
Is-
it, it just, for me, and it gets overwhelming at times, work and stuff like that. But for me, when I'm out, when I'm with the client for that hour, and I don't think of none of the stress. I don't think of any of that. I think of how I'm helping the client on their recovery, and even though they don't know it, they're helping me as well.
Has there been one or two clients amongst in this past year that you take special pride in, either sort of success stories that are even more profound than some of the others? Are there one or two clients that you continue sort of bank is, man, this is why I do what I do. Because obviously not every client will have a successful ending. We know that. But are there a couple clients of this last year that give you even more pride in what you do?
Yeah, definitely. My first client, actually, he
Wow.
he was so into it, watching the change on his family, with his son, with his wife, everything. It was amazing. It was like watching my myself get sober
Yeah.
again, and it was amazing.
Do you have many clients that don't have an identified ally and then don't benefit from our family component, or are many of your clients you're also working with one of our family educators in tandem?
Right now, I have 8 active clients right now, and I only have one that is not active in family.
Yeah. And are you seeing from the other side the same benefit that when we're able to work with the allies, whether it be a loved one, friend, family, neighbor, you're seeing the same level of impact that you saw when you were on the other side?
Oh, definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's what that makes me so happy as well, because I advocate for the family part a lot, and because a lot of times when they hear the family part and stuff, they think that it's going to be meetings about them and stuff like that. Um, but I really reinsure them that it's not about anything like that. It's for them, and it's amazing. I love seeing it.
That's great. Obviously, traditional treatment options work for a lot of people, whether it be residential treatment centers, partial hospitalization, intensive outpatient. And in many cases, clients will come to us after receiving care and traditional treatment options. What do you think makes the AWARE program different or distinct or right for a lot of people? If you could just walk through, you've been on both sides. You've obviously worked with a number of clients that have cycled through residential treatment and other higher levels of care. Why does the AWARE program work if you were to sort of distill it down?
Yeah, so the Aware program, it's nothing like anything else. Um, you don't go away. You're not away with nothing for 30 days. You're in your home, you're with your family, you're with your stressors, you're with your triggers, you're with everything that you're going to need to deal with in everyday sobriety. And at a treatment center or somewhere else, even my clients tell me now, the treatment center might have been great. The 30-day program might have been great, but they come home and they're left with nothing. And with Aware, we also help connect them with their own community, so that when they leave
Yeah.
us, they still have, we were there. We went to meetings with them. We took them out, to go golfing, took them out fishing, and they met somebody else as well. So we're there for them during their first part of their recovery, first year of their recovery, and we help them find people and find support so that they can stay sober longer too.
That's awesome. I mean, you're such a great representative of AWARE. Obviously, you're an alumni of the program and now contributing to the recovery of others. Listen, this is now the third episode. In the previous two episodes, it's the same. It was the same scenario that all three of you were near death, or told by many others that if you didn't change, you would be dead. And so more than maybe many others that are in active addiction, you were at the end of the road. I would love for you to provide sort of your feelings or advice to those who are in active addiction, maybe not necessarily at the end of the road, but really struggling, maybe not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. What advice would you give to them? Because obviously you've been at the deepest of despair in a period of your life. And there are many others, as we all know, that are at the same place or nearing the same place. They can't see any optimism for the future. What advice would you give them or their families in terms of how to cope through that period of time?
There's always hope, you know. You got to be hopeful. That, and for me, it was this, having support, having people there is one of the biggest things. Um, so my famous line that I like to ask everybody, is, would you rather give up one thing for everything, or would you rather give up everything for one thing?
Wow.
And it's a question you can sit with, and it's, easy to think about and just say, oh, I want to give up one thing for everything. But it's a lot harder to actually do that. But that is, that's what I put that in everybody's brain right away is, would you rather have everything or just one thing?
That's amazing, and probably a great place to end our conversation, even though I could keep talking to you for a lot longer. Jake, congratulations on your journey. You have not only been able to personally reclaim your life, but I have no doubt in talking with you that you're an amazing father and a supportive husband. And it sounds like your wife, is owed a lot in this journey with how she was able to support you through your recovery. So thank you for everything you've done for Aware Recovery Care, for the clients you've been able to treat. And I'm proud to call you a colleague, and I look forward to hearing more stories of how you've contributed to the recovery of others. So thanks for joining us, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me, Brian. I appreciate it.